Today, what we're going to do is we're diving into one of the most talked about and often misunderstood topics in health coverage, which is the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. And if you've ever wondered how the ACA works, whether you qualify or how to avoid overpaying for coverage, then you're in the right place and you're watching the right show. So joining me today is Joanna, who is an ACA specialist who's helped countless individuals and families navigate the marketplace, find affordable plans, and understand the real impact of ACA coverage. So whether you're self-employed, in between jobs, or you're just trying to figure out what your options are, this episode is for you. So let's get into it. Joanna, welcome.
Thank you so much, Rusty, for having me. I know we've been friends for many years, and this is the first time I've been on your podcast, and you're going to be on my podcast soon.
Let's go. I'm stoked. I will accept that invitation. Just got to let me know when and where, and will we be serving burritos? That's
That's
very
right.
important. So, all right. So here's our traditional kickoff to every financial happy hour. And Joanna and I, this was unplanned, unrehearsed, but we're going to be drink Twinkies today.
Yes, we
However,
are.
the difference between Joanna's drink and my drink is mine is came and jacked up. So it's
Right.
more potent. Joanna show. Yeah, there you go.
Mine,
So
mine is just regular Jack, no jacked.
yeah, this is 10%. How much is yours? 5.8?
5.8, yeah.
5.8. All right. Well, here's to another successful podcast. May our viewers who are watching this live and on the replay, may they get a lot of value from today's show. Cheers. Salute.
Cheers.
Woo, that is jacked up
I like
in a
this.
good
Nobody ever
way.
asked me to talk with a drink in my hand.
Well, there's a lot of firsts when you deal with Rusty Westfall. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we're going to say that's good and that's different. So, all right, before we get started, Joanna, can you first give us a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, so I am a United States Air Force veteran.
Thank you for
I
your service.
started from two, Thank you. I started from 2003 after 9/11. I was in college during 9/11 and I came from a poor family. And so when I ran out of money for books and housing and I was working 35 hours a week at Walmart Photo Labs, if you remember that, I just dated myself.
Yes, you did.
Uh, um, I was trying to juggle everything and I was getting some bad grades, even though I'm a really smart cookie, because you can't do everything at once. And so I walked into an Air Force recruiter office and I signed up to just get the heck out of Dodge. And I ended up being, Rusty, this is where most people get shocked. I ended up working on fighter jets as a little 5'5" girl in the United States Air Force on the F-16. So my job was F-16 avionics, and it was a tough job. If I could go back, I would not do the job. um, I was working out in the rain, sleet, and snow in Germany for 2 years, and that's where I got injured. I got hit in the chest with a pressurized air hose that
Oh,
came off
wow.
the jet and everything when we were doing maintenance. Yeah. And so a couple years later, the Air Force said, "Hey, Joanna, your injuries are too significant. We can't keep you. Bye." And I had 10 days to get out of the Air Force. And I had just gotten married to my French boyfriend. And I was like, "Well, where are we going to go, honey?" We're in Idaho at the time. And he had family in Atlanta. So I was like, "Let's go to Atlanta."
What year was
So when I
that?
got to Atlanta, that was 2007.
2007. Okay.
So 24 years old in Atlanta, 1,000 miles from where I grew up in upstate New York. And I thought that everybody would want to hire a veteran, right? That's what we were told in the military. And that wasn't really true. Like people are like, "Well, how's a jet mechanic gonna work in my office?" I'm like, "You don't think we had phones in the Air Force? Like you don't think I worked for the commander, you know?" And it was a hard job, like trying to get a job, but I eventually worked at a tech school, went to college full time at night, and then I ended up getting hired by Social Security Administration about 2 years in. Social Security came knocking on my door and hired me, and I stayed at Social Security for 9.5 years, serving the public in Atlanta in a busy metro office. And I learned how to help people with their disability applications, their retirement applications, their Medicare applications. Their Social Security does so much. You know, they see you at birth, they see you at death, and they see you all the time in between. You know,
So
so
you did that all
there's
the
so
way up
many
till
new.
around 2016? 2016,
actually passed
2017?
that. So I got my license to sell insurance in 2016. Ask me why, Rusty.
That's what?
So So I got my license while I was still working at Social Security
Right,
because I went to school and got my master's at night for project management, thinking I was going to get a promotion, and that promotion never came. And so how do you pay off a $35,000 bill you just incurred?
right.
Like I need a weekend job to pay off this bill that my student loans were coming due, you know? And so I had met a recruiter. He's like, you can make money selling insurance on the weekend. I said, sign me up because that sounds way better than being a door greeter at Walmart, you know? And so that's how I got into the insurance industry in 2016. And it was a struggle. I think we started connecting right around then, maybe.
Yep.
I was working for an insurance company who only did life insurance back then. And when I started gravitating more towards health insurance, they're like, oh, you can keep that little money. There's no money in health insurance. But I coming from Social Security where I had my Medicare background and my Medicaid background, I was like, people need help. It's complicated, right? And so I started gravitating more towards health insurance and focusing on that. I left Social Security August 2019 when I was at the ER asking for sick leave because I couldn't swallow, and they told me no. And I was like, how is a government agency who's my employer for almost 10 years gonna tell me I can't have sick time when I got sick at work yesterday? You know what I'm saying? Like I got strep throat from work, you know? And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go be self-employed. So that's when I became a full-time agent is when 2019. So I got
Yep.
licensed in 2016, sold on the weekends, nights, and everything. That was like my cruise money, my purse money and paying off my student loan money. And then in 2019, I became fully self-employed.
So let's do a deep dive into your, we'll call it financial services career, your insurance career, if you will. Um, because I always like to hear about people's journey and their experiences before we get to the meat and potatoes of today's topic, which is all about ACA. That is what I'm hyper focused on today. If you could just briefly tell us more about your financial services journey leading up to when and how you started Top Flight Insurance. Because, and the caveat to this is that early on, it seemed like you gravitated everywhere. You were just, you're a student of the business. This
Mm-hmm.
is from observing,
Mm-hmm.
years of observing, especially early on, that you were everywhere in every forum, every group, attending every conference. I mean, you were an absolute financial services sponge. Anywhere that this is again my perception, I could be
Mm-hmm.
wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
anywhere that you could get value and education,
Yeah.
guidance, assistance, knowledge, that's where Joanna was. And it's like, where does what focus on one market, Joanna? This is what I was thinking to myself. Find a niche
Fair
and
enough.
stick with it. So
Fair enough.
that's where I want you to, if you could tell me a little bit more about your journey leading up to Top Flight Insurance.
So I started at a company that did both what they call mortgage protection and final expense, right? And final expense is usually for, someone who's older in age and has some health problems, usually like 55 and up. And then mortgage protection is usually for younger people who have families and who need more robust coverage. So they were doing that. And I was struggling trying to sell insurance on just Saturdays. I was buying all these leads in the insurance industries. Like you might spend $40 to purchase a lead and then drive into Alabama. And then people were like, Joanna, my real problem isn't life insurance. My real problem is I don't have any health insurance. My real problem is I have questions with my Medicare, right? And I was like, because people people often think that life insurance isn't for them because it's not something that they're going to use today, and health insurance is what we use today, right? So their focus was really not the life insurance. So I was like, all right, if Rusty wants health insurance, let me help Rusty with his health insurance and fix the life insurance on the back end. And so that's what I started doing. I started focusing on what they wanted to talk about, which was usually their health insurance and dire need for it and confusion, and then fixing their financial issues on the back end. So by helping them with their Medicare and ACA, I started uncovering, hey, Rusty, all right, we got your ACA out the way. You don't have group coverage. We got that. We got your dental, we got your vision. by the way, I saw you had a 401k that probably needs to be taken out of the market. And by the way, you're still going to die. Right. And doing it that way. Because guess what, Rusty, like every consumer needs more than just life insurance. They need health insurance. Because if you have a health insurance emergency, I was in the hospital this past week. I was Sunday night. I was having stroke-like symptoms. Like I was like feeling like my veins were constricting. I was standing on my counter and then I went to bed and I laid in bed for 5 hours and it didn't go away. And I'm 42 and I have some health issues and everything, nothing major.
Sure.
And I'm like, this is not going away. It's not the normal chest pain I have from my injury 20 years ago. And I was like, you know what? I have so many people that rely on me. I have to go see a doctor. I said, if I call my doctor at 8 o'clock in the morning, the first thing she's going to tell me is to go to the ER to get EKG anyway, right? So I took my ass to, I went to the ER and
We can edit that later. No, I'm just kidding.
I went to the ER and thankfully they cleared my EKG. They did a CT on me. They did a couple others, like an X-ray and everything. And they found out it was just like some nerve issues in my neck that was causing the sensations and stuff. But that was like a concern, right? But that $1,000 ER bill, if somebody doesn't have health insurance, Rusty, that could have been a $10,000 bill because they were running a CT, it's $5,000, right? Just walking in is thousands of dollars. So most people, when I was 20 years old, right before I went to the Air Force, I fell in my roommate's room and I broke my hand. And I didn't know I broke my hand, but I didn't go get medical attention for it because I didn't have health insurance. And people delay it. And now, 20 years later, that hand, I can't carry much with this hand because I never got attention for it.
Yep.
People, when they have a health issue and they ignore it because they don't have insurance to go take care of it, it becomes a financial devastation. So even if it's health insurance pays into your financial well-being. You know,
100%.
it's just they're married together, right? And so we have to protect someone's health and their ability to seek health care in order to protect their long-term assets.
So you said something of grand importance and interest that I want to piggyback off of and capitalize on, and that is you started off your insurance career as probably the same way that I'm going to say 95% of other people start their insurance career, and that is limited to one product or at least one market. And you've got
Mm-hmm.
all these limitations with other areas where you can help people and also having a lot more options to where you can put them in the best or at least a much, much better position than where they're currently at by having access to these other options,
Yeah,
especially other markets. When you start off, you don't have all that nor the
right.
knowledge. So my question is more, you're correct when it comes to life insurance, final expense, mortgage protection. Everybody knows they need it. Everybody knows they want it. Everybody knows they have to have it in order to make sure their biggest fear becomes reality.
Right.
But you can have the best intentions in the world, but it doesn't mean a hill of beans until you express it with the appropriate action. That is the
Mm-hmm.
biggest difference between life and health market is life. It's not about you today, now, at least in those sub niche markets where it's all about the death benefit. Now,
Right.
there are other markets like IUL and supplemental retirement, tax-free individual retirement accounts where people need to understand, stop seeing and understanding life insurance for what it is and understand what it actually does.
Yes.
But that's a whole different topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
In those markets, mortgage protection and final expense, it's really all about the death benefit, trying to get
Yeah.
the most amount of coverage for the lowest rate possible. And so, but it's not going to benefit them while they're alive if you're focused in those markets. But on health insurance, it is about, hey, well, I got to make sure my medicines are taken care of and I
Yeah,
can't go without my blood pressure, can't go
that's right.
without this. So, what is your opinion or share some thoughts with me in terms of as a consumer, which this
Mm-hmm.
show is more consumer driven than
Sure.
agent driven, because it's all about financial education and all these different financial topics. And today it's ACA. But share with me your thoughts on, as a consumer, dealing with agents, those who are limited versus those like yourself who have the knowledge and access to multiple products, multiple companies in different markets?
Yeah, so I think it's important as a consumer to make sure that one, that you don't have to do it by yourself. So many people try to do it by themselves and just pick out a policy. And I've tried to do this myself as like trying to buy my own auto insurance, and it's a nightmare, the website might quote me one thing, and then when they get my driver's license and pull my real driver's history, it's a completely different story, right? And same thing is true when you start really quoting yourself. Like for life insurance, we know that one company might give you a quote, but will they really approve you at the health rate that they've quoted you, right? And so for ACA and other health products like Medicare, if you just work with one broker or agent who only sells one for one company, they can't tell you what the other guys are selling or that another product might be more suitable. And that's why I am a broker, because I can look and service you. I don't have to put you in a wooden box. Like I can say, okay, Rusty, based off of your age, your income, and the doctors that you want to see and your medication, this is the particular plan that suits your needs. Not, hey, Rusty, this is what I got for you. You take it or leave it, right? And that's why I became a broker, because I can work for any company in the United States. I'm licensed in all 50 states plus DC now. That was a big
Right.
undertaking.
Yeah.
But any company that allows independent brokers, which is most of them, not all of them, most of them allow independent brokers, I can offer their suite and really find a solution for you versus fitting you into a product. Um, and we see that all the time in life insurance. Like I own a Facebook group for veterans, and so many times I see veterans say, well, I got denied life insurance because of my PTSD from company ABC. And I'm like, man, if they just called a broker who had more options than one, because we know that we can qualify anybody with PTSD, it's just the right company to find, right? And that's the same thing with the health ACA. They're not allowed to ask you some health questions. Like you can't get denied just because you have an issue with ACA, which is why ACA is important to so many people. I'm on ACA. I sold myself an ACA policy because, Rusty, I'm self-employed. Before Obamacare, I wouldn't have been able to, sell myself an ACA policy. Like otherwise I would, because I have my injury, I have fibromyalgia, and my height and weight, I'm not the skinniest right now. Like I probably wouldn't have qualified for one of those underwritten health plans that you see people talk about sometimes, right? So the marketplace, the ACA marketplace is critical for consumers. Just make sure you're working with a broker who can sell you any plan in your county, not just one carrier.
The last question on this topic before we switch gears to ACA, and
Mhm.
this is becoming a common question that I seem to be finding myself asking almost every special guest that I have on the show. I'm a
Okay.
consumer and I'm in the market for fill in the blank. Doesn't matter. Medicare, final expense, mortgage protection, ACA. How do you vet the agent? What is the best way to find an agent that has the knowledge, the tools, and the
Mhm.
resources that will be able to put them in the best position possible?
It's a really good question. Okay. So I like to be vetted by, I put my money where my mouth is. Like if you want to see what I can provide for you, what like type of quote, right? Let them quote you and see what they come back, and go get a couple different opinions. Just like if you were car shopping or something, Rusty, you're not going to sign up with the first car that you test drive, are you?
I mean, I won't, but I'm sure some people might.
Okay, some people might.
You're
But
right.
like if I was looking for a vehicle, like when I went and was looking for my vehicle, I went and test drove a couple. I went and compared some things. I just purchased new auto insurance the other day, and I had my agent run me some quotes, right? And I continued to do business with him because he told me how I could save money. While we all have the same license, kind of like a realtor's license. We all can sell the same thing, but a lot of our differences is our knowledge and our product access and how deep we think about a solution, right? So it's like if you go onto my website, topflightmedicare.com, we talk a whole lot about Medicare, obviously, because it's so complicated. But we do everything else. And I think having national licenses, like 51 entities trust both Joanna and Top Flight, and so do all of my carriers. And the proof is in the pudding where like you can just get help from my office like Monday through Friday. Like we do this service work, you know. We can help you with your claims issues. Like most agents, I don't know if they can help you with claims issues. I train my agents to help with the claims issues because that's really what's the problems when I meet with consumers is something got denied and they don't know how to file the appeal, right?
What was that? What was that website again?
Topflightmedicare.com.
That's what I thought you said. So
Mm-hmm.
you have actually a couple of websites, Top Flight Agent
Do.
and Top Flight Medicare.
Yeah, so Top Flight Agent is my agent-facing website, and Top Flight Medicare is my consumer-facing website.
Okay, so here's you got topflightagent.com.
Mm-hmm.
You see this eagle in the background, Top Flight Insurance. You know you're at the
Supposed
right
to be an
place.
eagle.
What's that?
I said that's supposed to be an eagle.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Yeah. And then over here, basically mirrors the Top Flight Agent, but it's a website dedicated to just Medicare only, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Awesome. So today's not about Medicare. It
Yep.
is about ACA. So let's
Yes.
deep dive into this right now. Can you briefly explain what the ACA is and what problem is it trying to solve?
So the ACA is actually a law. It's the Affordable Care Act, which is a law that allows consumers like me to get access to commercial health plans outside of an employer. And the law gives us some subsidies based off of income. So the law, first of all, doesn't allow you to ask any health questions other than smoking, right? So they're not allowed to say, hey, Joanna, you've had a hit in the chest and you have sleep apnea, you're going to get denied. They're not allowed to ask that, right? So pre-existing conditions don't exist on ACA, which is important because Rusty, when I worked at Social Security, guess what? I served so many people who came in and said, Joanna, I just lost my job because I have this illness or this injury. I need to file for Social Security disability. But what am I supposed to do for health insurance in the meantime? Because Medicare has a 24-month wait. I have stage 4 cancer. How am I supposed to get health insurance? Right. And so before Marketplace, before Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, it was really hard. I'm like, you're either going to financially qualify for Medicaid or you're going to be up a creek unless you have something like a spouse that has a plan that you can get on. I don't have a spouse with a group plan to get on, right? Like I'm a disabled veteran and I still wrote myself a Marketplace plan because the VA can't solve my needs either. So the ACA is simply a law that allows commercial products to sell direct to consumer like you and me and no pre-existing conditions. And then we also qualify, some people qualify for tax subsidies based off their household composition and income.
And we're going to get that in just a moment. So now,
Yep.
as I understand in my research, this is a government sponsored plan. Now it's administered through typical carriers like Blue Cross Blue Shield and so forth,
Yep.
but it is a government sponsored plan. Is that correct?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
so you can do it both ways. There's on market and then there's off market. So mine is not sponsored because I don't get a subsidy. So I have a Marketplace plan, no pre-existing conditions, but I pay the full premium, $492 a month and a $7,000 a year maximum out of pocket because of my financial uh, uh, bracket. Like I wouldn't qualify for a subsidy, right? So there's both. So there's people who are on market getting a subsidy, and then there's people who are off market not getting a subsidy. So like think about it, like if you're making $1 million a year, self-employed or whatever, you still need health insurance, but you're not going to qualify for a subsidy. So the government has nothing to do with your premium.
Okay. So I got one more question before we dive into
Yep.
subsidies and tax credits because that is a part of my question in the interview here. But my next question is, what is the ACA really meant for, and who benefits the most from it besides those who have pre-existing conditions?
I love that this question exists because so many people don't know that they do qualify for it. So it's meant for self-employed. It's meant for, which would be like 1099. So if you think about insurance agents, realtors, it's meant for the small business owner. Any employer under 50 is not required to offer a group plan, and many of them can't afford a group plan. So 50 employees or less, you probably qualify for ACA with subsidies, the part-time worker, right? So most entities, think about Walmart. Walmart, when I worked there, everybody was basically classified as part-time except the managers, so they didn't have to provide us health insurance.
Hmm.
They would give us like 35 hours, just below what really is full-time. So we didn't qualify for health insurance. So Rusty, I don't know if you remember my young days, but back in 2018 and 19, I had a table at Walmart
I remember that.
at nights and weekends.
Hmm.
And so many of the Walmart cashiers and stock people would come up to me and say, "Hey, Joanna, I need help with my health insurance. I don't qualify for Walmart's group plan here. So what can you do for me?"
You
Right?
probably got more people stop at the table that were employees than actual
I
customers.
did.
I
I
bet.
did.
Hmm.
I did because they needed help. And, I love to help people. And so, so many people don't know that it's an option. So I have a fancy little name badge I wear into, I don't know if you can see this.
I said, hmm.
And I wear this when I'm out and about. And usually the cashiers, when I'm picking up my coffee or my lunch, they usually say, "Hey, that's a beautiful name badge. What do you do?" And I say, "I help people get health insurance. How's your health insurance here?" And a lot of times, Rusty, they say, "Health insurance? These fools don't give me no health insurance," right? Because they're either usually part-time, usually underclassified, or they're 1099 contract workers. So they don't qualify for group health insurance through there. So that's one segment. And then the one of the biggest segments I started finding for myself, because I do love, love, love Medicare, is the 62-year-old who goes to retire at Social Security. Well, you're retiring at 62. What are you going to do for your health insurance, Rusty? Marketplace. If you don't have a spouse with a group plan, you do qualify for Marketplace if you don't qualify for Medicaid, which most won't with their retirement, right? So a lot of people, when I was sitting at Social Security, one of the big questions is, all right, well, if I give my job up, if I quit my job at 62, what am I going to do for health insurance until I turn 65 and get Medicare?
Right.
And that's another problem that the Marketplace ACA law solved, because there were so many people who were without coverage, and they were influx in our ERs and hospitals and stuff, right? And so it solves so many people think just self-employed, but it's really part-time employees, 62 and up. There's even if you have, so Rusty, you can have a group plan with your employer, and it could be classified as unaffordable for your children and your spouse. So let's say they say, well, okay, Rusty, it's $500 for you, but it's 2,000 for your wife and kids to join.
You're
Well, then,
stealing my thunder, but I like it because that's one of the questions that I have because I think that's one of the biggest secrets. And
yes,
how do I phrase this? I think that is a large piece of information that people are lacking is if they work for an employer,
yeah,
you get a job, you got your
yeah,
W-2, and they offer health insurance, that's your only option.
it's
And that's going
not.
to be the best option, but it's not necessarily. I would say probably around 30 to 40% of the time, you would have a
Hmm.
better idea than I would. But my number is somewhere around 30 to 40% of the time. You can do much better finding health insurance privately or ACA versus the coverage that your employer is offering and your cost share for that plan.
That's right. So I sit on the executive board of a nonprofit called Health Agents for America, and we had a training on the what's it called? Family glitch is the name of the term. So many people don't know about this until they run into Joanna or somebody who has, is like ask. You have to ask a lot of questions
Right,
because
of course.
a lot of times, and I was just the same. Sometimes, Rusty, we don't have the entire picture because we didn't ask a lot of questions. We have limited information, right? So a lot of people would walk by my table and say, "Well, I don't need your help. I got group insurance. I work for so and so. I got group insurance." But they didn't ask how affordable that group insurance was. And your definition of affordable and unaffordable might be different definition than the legal government's definition, right? And so until you actually sit down with a broker who focuses on the family glitch, Rusty, so many agents don't even know about the family glitch. Like I'm continuing to educate agents. You know, I own two of the biggest Facebook groups in the country for insurance agents. So many of them still don't know about the family glitch because we have to continue to educate and talk about it.
Little side note here.
Hmm.
You mentioned that name badge. Make sure I'm sure. Yeah, here we go. I got this book. I read it like more than 10 years ago as The Power of
Okay.
Approachability.
Yeah.
It's a guy who actually wears a name badge everywhere he goes. And what he
Hmm.
found is that by wearing a name badge everywhere he goes, he's more approachable to people and people are more
Hmm.
receptive to when he comes up. And he's got his name right there. Say, I'm Scott, what's
Yep.
your name? And so I
Yep.
love the fact that you've got your name badge and it's all blingy.
Hmm.
And that helps you to kind of break the ice with people. And you're a lot more approachable as to somebody who you're just a complete stranger. And I don't know
Yeah.
your name and I don't know who you are. So I found that very interesting when you showed me that name badge. And I remember that book that I read, The Power of Approachability. So it's a good book, guys. You should read up on
I
it.
just wrote down the title. I'm gonna order. I love ordering books off of Amazon when I find something good like that, and I always get nuggets out of them.
Yeah,
But
I think you'll get a lot of value out of it. Let's talk subsidies real quick. So,
yes,
how do the subsidies, first of all, for those who don't know what that term means,
sure.
what is a
A
subsidy and
subsidy is
how do the
basically a
subsidies and taxes actually work?
sure. A subsidy is basically just a tax credit. So hmm, let's say you make $25,000 and somebody else makes $50,000. They're gonna have a different tax subsidy because of the income difference. Or let's say you have a kid, but the other person doesn't have a kid. They're gonna be calculated differently. Kind of just as like Rusty. Do you have kids, Rusty?
Yes.
I believe you do. Okay. I don't have any kids, so I get really upset around tax time because I have no deductions. So I'm like, can I claim my neighbor's cat? Right?
I mean, you probably could. Maybe the cat identifies as a 5-year-old. I mean, who knows?
Right. But like, so somebody, just like regular taxes, where Rusty, who has kids, if we had the same income, he would probably get more back in taxes because he has those little mouths to feed, right? Same thing with health insurance. So the more income you make with the less amount of houses, least amount of belly buttons, you were going to pay a little bit more. But the least amount of income you make, you have to make over what they call the federal poverty limit. And there's a chart based off of household size. It's called Federal Poverty Limit 2025. If you put that into Google, it'll come up with a chart. And it'll tell you based off of your household composition and income, like what the cutoff is. So we're finding, and Rusty, this is another thing that people don't know. You might have missed open enrollment because we're shooting this in July right now, right?
Correct.
And open enrollment starts November for January 1st, right? But there's people who qualify for special enrollment periods year round because they qualify for an income bracket, and that's under 150% of that federal poverty limit. So if someone is under that 150% of that federal poverty limit chart, maybe the chart says that if they make under 40,000, if they make under that 40,000, I can enroll them for next month and get them health coverage.
So I really think that you see all the questions that I've got right in front of me because you're always one step ahead of me. And that is if someone's income changes mid-year,
Yeah,
how does that
yeah,
affect your coverage?
yeah. So you are required by law to report income changes, whether it's good or bad, right? So if you have a loss of income, you might go from paying a $492 premium to
Is that
maybe a
measured
300 or
quarterly?
200.
Is that measured
Huh?
quarterly or monthly?
That's a good question. They just have us report it as soon as the change. It's measured overall. So I have to do what your total 2025 income is, not monthly. It's not monthly like Medicaid would look at monthly. So like let's say I had a good job making, when I worked at Social Security, I was making 80,000 a year, which was considered good back then. And now inflation, that's like nothing, right?
Right.
But if I quit my job in August and I didn't make any more money, then I would just go year to date, right? Or maybe I got a lower paying job. So it's based off the entire year. So when I go into update an income, it's going to ask year to date how much Rusty thinks he's going to make in 2025. So I just had a friend, her husband lost his job. And so I'm like, all right, how much did he make year to date? That was the first question. And then how much do you think he's going to make the rest of the year? And then I put that together to make a new estimate, right? And so some folks, like they might have had a big income change. Like, so if you go from 62 and working to 62 and retired, and you know your Social Security check is how much it's going to be, I'm going to recalculate what your premium's going to be. You following?
Mhm. I do.
Okay.
So what's the real truth about income limits? So my question is, can the middle or the upper middle class families, can they still benefit from ACA coverage?
Yeah. So let's do a quote. Do we have a minute to do a quote?
Sure.
Let me see if I can get into here. I was not prepared to do quotes, but let's do it.
You want to share your screen, you have access to it.
All right. I got to reintegrate my account real quick. 1 second. So I had somebody who is going to make $65,000 this year, and she actually qualified for a subsidy, and she was shocked. And so I'm going to show you let me get this code in here, and I'll share my screen. All right.
While Joanna tries to pull up her software, we're going to take a brief commercial break, sponsored by Cayman Jack. The margarita that's guaranteed to jack you up
Yes.
after the first can. Let's go. Perfect timing. All right.
All right. Rusty, what's your zip code?
62221.
I got it.
Yep.
How old are you?
I identify as 25, but I'm 51.
Okay. All right. So with no savings applied, the lowest cost plan in your county is this amount, $535.14. Okay. With no
Individual.
subsidies for just you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. This is with no subsidies. Okay. Now, let's put some income in here. With 100,000, no savings. Let's go down to 80. With 80, you still have $77 in savings. I think 80,000 is pretty good money, right? So a 51-year-old making 80,000 could still get a little bit of a tax credit, a subsidy towards their plan. Now
Okay,
let
so
me
real quick though, how does this compare? How does this coverage compare to if I were to shop it on the open market, not through ACA, but dealing with an actual health insurance broker that doesn't do ACA? What kind of difference in plans and rates what can a person typically expect to see?
Okay, so let's clarify the open market. The open market for non-ACA is gonna be plans that are not truly completely coverage. So there's gonna be a maximum out of pocket. Like they'll call themselves a PPO, but it's not truly a PPO. They're usually going to have $1 million limit at least, and they're going to have health questions to qualify for that.
Is that
Okay,
$1 million annual or lifetime?
usually annual, right?
Okay.
And they all vary. I've seen plans that call themselves health insurance, and it's really an indemnity policy, and it's not really great. It's not something I would put myself into, and if I don't put myself into it, I'm not going to put you into it, right?
Okay.
So some of the companies sell the same under the same umbrella. Like there's a Cigna PPO, but that Cigna PPO, you have to medically qualify by both height, weight, medical conditions, and everything. And it's not a true PPO. And by the way, the options are going to vary based off of where you live, right? And so it would be crazy for health agents to not do ACA. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't do ACA. It's a simple certification. It's free. My assistant's taking it today, actually, because today's the deadline to do 2025, and she just got her license today. But I don't know why anybody wouldn't do ACA and compare it, because how would you know what you qualify for if you don't look at all options, right?
The way I'm seeing ACA, it's kind of like the guaranteed issue
Oh,
version of life insurance without a waiting period.
I would disagree with that.
No?
Um, you can be very healthy and have an ACA plan because, first of all right, so
Well, when I say guaranteed issue, just there's no medical underwriting.
Hmm. But they're also not required to provide services. Like, so that Cigna PPO that I just told you about,
Hmm.
I don't think it provides maternity care, right? I'm
No.
42. I just had a miscarriage 3 months ago. That would have been important for me. We see that all the time with people sold these plans and then life happens. Like
That's where you got to ask the right questions though to make sure that you're looking at the right plan.
yeah, but you're also locked into that plan for the year, right? Like you can't, like I can't get marketplace throughout the year because I'm not under 150%, or you have to have a life qualifying event to opt in, right?
Okay.
Pregnancy is one of them, by the way, but just getting sick is not one of them. So if someone is in one of those PPOs and then realizes that they're not going to pay for that treatment, then they're stuck until open enrollment, right? So you really want to know what you're buying. And all those insurances out there are a little bit different. So you have to read the fine print. I don't sell anything that's not going to cover someone on their worst day and the worst thing because my E&O is really important to me. I don't want Rusty to come to me and say, Joanna, you promised that I was getting good health insurance and I was just hit by a bus and they're denying the claim. Like I can't do that to you, Rusty, you know?
Do the subsidies, do they apply if the household members is more than one? So in other words, if you have
Yeah, so
three,
let's play with some household numbers. How many you want?
let's do three.
Okay. So you see how it recalculates?
Mhm. Oh, wow. Okay.
And
Two.
now your household of three gets a whole, this is for three people,
Nice.
right? Let me show you something else. Let me show you a little lower income. Let me show you middle America. I think most of us would agree that middle America, let me,
45,000 household is middle America?
45,000, yeah. I,
Household?
yeah, I think so. No? Which, how old is your spouse?
Oh boy. But she's 45.
45.
Yeah.
How old is your minions?
11 and 13.
Okay. All right, so let me change this to 4. Okay, I got 4. So this starts screening it, saying that you live in Illinois and the kids might be eligible for Medicaid. So let me say that they're not. I'm going to say that they're not just for the,
For illustration purposes.
yeah. So you see this is tax credit you're getting each month. Most people don't know this. This is, your family, if you were making 45,000 at Walmart, your family could get health insurance for $4 a month, a $0 deductible, and a max out of pocket of $2,000. That's pretty dope, and most people don't know that,
That's
right?
incredible.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so
Look at
that
this.
right
If
there,
you
that is a prime example of, if you're middle of the road income and your employer
Mhm.
offers health insurance and you got at least a 50%, if not a higher cost share for that, there's a better chance than not you're going to be able to get probably the same or better coverage at a fraction of the cost if you went through
Yeah.
ACA.
Look, this plan, same premium, less out
Whatever.
of pocket, $800 deductible, but also $800 max out of pocket. Now, I specialize in writing critically ill people. I partner with a nonprofit across the country who gets people at their worst day. They might have a transplant needed or cancer or something. So this out of pocket's important for them, on top of the premium. And when I help them, they're just so thankful that they can get their treatment and they're not going to go bankrupt. So,
That's incredible.
yeah. Yep. And so this is what, like, you're a broker. This is standard technology that I'm showing you. And most agents that are certified to do ACA, it's called the FFM certification. Most of us use this simple tool to do the quote, and you can go onto my website and use it right now. I can share these quotes with you and everything and just email it over and you could compare the plans. I usually be like, all right, Rusty, here's what I think. Based off the medications, I put in the medications and doctors and everything. I double check on the carrier's website, making sure that they still are in network. Here's what I think. Compare this plan versus this plan, right? And your agent should give you some options that look like this. So like some people are stuck on name brand, and I'm like, skip the name brand because look at this compared to what we just saw up here. Like not you want options. Can you
Yeah,
see?
so I think the bottom line for me is regardless your current position,
Yep.
your current situation, marital status, children, income, all those things, based on what you shared with me and what you showed me today, I think that it's in everybody's best interest that if they're starting with a new job with a new employer, that before they pursue and participate in the company's health insurance plan, that they should look at the other options, deal with an expert like you who's going to have
Mm-hmm.
their best interest at heart, and compare apples to pineapples to see is the employer health insurance, is that going to be the best option for you? Or can you do more for less by other options that you're not aware of?
That's right.
That's my conclusion here. All right, my next question is, um, are ACA plans accepted by most doctors and hospitals?
I think so. Um, Very rarely do we find a doctor not willing to take ACA because they all work to get paid. N- Now you might see some concierge doctors who don't want to bill any insurance. So if they don't take marketplace, they usually don't take group insurance, they usually don't take Medicare, they just want to get paid direct. But I'm seeing the concierge doctors in places like ritzier, like Florida areas around high retirees, the concierge doctors. But almost every hospitals want to get paid, right? They know that you don't have $5,000 for this CAT scan in your pocket. So they want to take that insurance to get paid that $5,000. So almost every hospital, and you'll see, they'll carry their networks usually in their office and stuff. But I've never met a hospital that didn't bill insurance. And most doctors who have, private practice offices bill commercial insurance. And when I say commercial, it's usually group and marketplace.
Define concierge doctor. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so like I had a doctor willing to come to my house to do private scan work, and because they're not going through insurance, they don't have to get prior authorizations and stuff. Like I
Right.
paid for a doctor to do weight loss treatment for me, and they didn't have to say, "Okay, Joanna, you can't get semaglutide because you're not diabetic." Like I got prescribed it anyways because I met the FDA regulation for it. Does that make
Gotcha.
sense?
It does.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, what protections or benefits are required under the ACA that other plans might skip?
hmm I think the protections is they have to pay the claim if it's a covered illness. So like, pregnancy, for example, they can't deny Joanna because she's pregnant, right? Where in other coverage, they can have their exclusions. They can't have any exclusions on the marketplace. I think that's the biggest protection, Rusty, and they're obligated to pay that claim. Um, as long as it was medically necessary,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Whereas I see it all the time, these health share plans. I'm not selling health share plans because first of all, it's not insurance. And it says right on there, this is not insurance. Why would you buy a share plan if it's not insurance? Because they're not.
What's a share plan? Is like
Yeah, they're
MA?
they're targeting people it's usually by a company for religious reasons, and there's people who use it for non-religious reasons, just purporting. But when Obamacare came out, there was people who were like, we have a religious objection. So they got an exception, right? And so there's these health share plans who use they say, well, it's against our religion to use insurance or whatever. So we're going to share insurance. The insurance is risk mitigation and sharing the risk, right? So if we're all in the group, we're sharing the risk pool. With a
Gotcha.
health share plan, if I got cancer and need to go through chemotherapy, they don't have to pay that chemotherapy bill. There's no legal obligation because it's not insurance. They're not regulated by the Department of Insurance.
Interesting.
Scary
So,
because
yeah, it
people are
is.
buying those plans not knowing it's not insurance.
And that's usually how it works in the health insurance arena is that people's understanding of health insurance is okay, how much do I owe when I go see a doctor for a doctor's visit? If I go to the emergency room, how much do I owe? What's my
Right.
copayment? If I have a prescription prescribed, what's my copayment? But health insurance is not about doctor's visits and emergency rooms. It's about using it on a large scale, cancer, coma, diabetic, things of that nature.
Let me
And
show
that's where
you. Let me show you a
deductibles and
benefit.
co-insurance.
I have the
And when
plan.
people get those invoices in the mail, that's when they start asking questions. And
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I didn't know about that. Well, we went over that. You just obviously didn't.
Right. Right. So like there might be things like this, 25% for an X-ray, imaging, blood work. I like plans that have a little fixed copay, right? This was not one I would have chosen. Let me go find something. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, I like fixed dollars. Percentage is okay. You see $10 urgent care. That's something that big, right? So people like there's a lot pregnancy and birth. That's a big one for anybody who's has a uterus and still uses it, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Preventative care. A lot of those plans that are not truly health insurance might not have any preventative care, which includes your cancer screenings, right? So these are all included in a standard marketplace plan. And you should get a document that looks like this. And at the end of the year, you would get a 1095 for your taxes. But if you don't have something like this, I worry about what you really do have because you should know what's covered and what's not. So this tells you exactly how much home health is going to cover if you're in network and out of network. And these matter when you have an injury,
The devil's
when
in the
I was
details. Absolutely.
yeah, when I was sitting at Social Security, people were choosing between a lot of different things and something like this would have helped a lot of people before it was in practice, like so many people who are injured go without thinking that they can't afford health insurance because they haven't met a Joanna yet to show them,
Yep.
hey, you just lost your income and your wife is making 45,000 this year and you have kids, you can qualify for this, right?
That was one of my questions is, where is that question? And if someone is losing employer coverage, how
Yeah.
quickly can they enroll into an ACA plan?
So I had somebody lose coverage on June 30th and I enrolled them on June 30th for July 1st.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful. Forget Cobra.
Why would you do Cobra?
I don't know.
Like, so
I
when
don't
people
know.
tell me that they're on Cobra, I'm like, why did you do that? Why didn't you like so,
Because they didn't know. People
a
only
lot
know
of
what they know
times
until
because their group administrator is not connecting them to anybody else. And a lot of time I don't do group. I stay in my lane. I specialize in individual care. I
right.
don't do group. I
Because
specialize
that's
in
a whole nother animal.
a whole nother animal. But I do have friends that are groups. Like I sit on the board for HAFA. I sit on the board for another nonprofit called NABIB. My group friends over there, they say, hey, Joanna, I have someone turning 65. Hey, Joanna, I have someone who's getting kicked off the plan because they're getting divorced. Can you talk to them? Right? And it's important because Cobra, first of all, is crazy expensive and it's a time limit. And if you stay on it beyond your time, there's special enrollment rules. So if you lose group insurance, you have 2 months for a special enrollment period. So if you take Sub Cobra for 4 or 5 months and then it's too expensive, you're usually beyond the special enrollment rule and I have to find another special enrollment. Now, thankfully, right now we still have that 150% rule if you are going to be under that for the year, but maybe you are already over that 150% for 2025,
I think the bottom line here is anytime that there's a life-changing event of any
Yeah.
kind, income change, job change, employer change, health change, always defer to your advisor,
Yep.
the person that you're doing business, the Joanna Wyckoff, to say, hey, this is my situation. What do I do? And have the subject matter expert guide them as to what their best options and what's going to be in their best interest versus them just saying, oh, okay, Cobra. Well, I guess I got to go from $500 a month to $2,500 a month until this happens.
Right.
Absolutely insane. Man, I knew this hour was going to fly by. I have all these questions here because this is I have really been looking forward to this for 2 solid weeks now.
Oh, wow.
This
Thank
hour
you. I
has
hope
just
I
flown
helped.
by. Well, yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, I'm going to have you back on the show
Sure.
because we've got about 60% of the way through. So let me touch on my last few important questions I want to get out there, and
Okay.
that is, what are the biggest mistakes that you see people make when
Mhm.
applying for ACA coverage?
They look at the cheapest plan and don't go a couple dollars down to a plan that might have, we might go from a $0 plan to a $4 plan, but we might jump from a $9,000 out of pocket to a $1,500 out of pocket. So they might say, okay, and there was a lot of Facebook ads, and then there's a lawsuit right now. Have you been following the ACA market? There was a lot of people put into plans that they shouldn't have been in, but there was people selling $0 plans with not true income, and they were putting them in the like called bronze coverage when they truly qualify for a silver coverage. So it's not always the cheapest coverage that you want to look at. You want to look at not just the cost of the plan, but the out-of-pocket deductible and the out-of-pocket cost of the maximum out-of-pocket and the cost of the copays. So you want to do a comprehensive analysis. Same thing with like your auto insurance and stuff, right? Cheap insurance doesn't mean the bill is going to get paid.
I think a general rule of thumb is that cheap comes out expensive,
Yeah.
regardless, not just insurance related, just product related, period.
Yeah.
What is one major myth or misunderstanding about ACA that you wish more people understood?
Yeah. So ACA is not political. It's really not. It's just access to having health insurance coverage that you don't get
That's
access to.
interesting that you say that, because I think a lot of people's perception is it's a political thing
It's not.
because of Obamacare, whether you love
Guess
them or you
what?
hate them.
Does
But
cancer decide if you're Democratic or Republican? And if you
absolutely
had
not.
stage 4 cancer and you just lost your job and you walked into my Social Security office, wouldn't you want to qualify for ACA to pay for your chemotherapy tomorrow? Regardless of what color flag or who you voted for, nobody ever asked me if that coverage was going to work with their politics. They wanted to know, does this coverage going to pay my hospital bills? Is this coverage going to take care of my chemotherapy? So remove politics from your brain. Whoever voted for or made up the bill, people have invented bills that I haven't necessarily agreed with, but it doesn't mean that there wasn't a need for it. And thank you. It's not political. Insurance is not political. What it is it provides coverage for people who need it. And if you need it, you should be able to get access to it. And I'm thankful as a disabled veteran who had to rely on the VA after I left my government job. I nearly died at the VA. I was in the hospital for 3 days in July 2023, and I saw zero follow-up care after. And I was like, I'm going to have to take matters into my own hands. I was constantly getting sicker and sicker, and I pay through the nose, $492 a month for my coverage that I'm grateful to have. I mean, I was just in the hospital at the emergency room 5 days ago, less than 5 days ago. You know what I'm saying? I just had a massive miscarriage. I had to have a DNC. And then, Rusty, like, I asked, this is my fourth miscarriage I had. I asked them to do genetic testing because I wanted to know what was going on.
Right.
Those PPO plans that you were telling me about, they're not going to cover genetic testing on a fetus. They're not. They're not required to. My plan did. So there's a big difference, and you want to make sure that the insurance that you're covering is going to do what you think it's going to do at the end of the day. On your worst day, Rusty, you want to make sure whatever insurance policy you have works the way you need it to work on the worst day of your life.
That's so powerful. Man, I wish I had at least another 20 minutes so I can get through a few more of these questions, but we're already out of time. So, Joanna, I'm watching the show, whether it's on live or on the replay, and I have a profound interest in getting in contact with you or your company. How would I go about doing that?
Yeah, you can just go to my website and schedule an appointment, or you can call my office. The phone number is 470-610-5710.
Okay,
So
so
you
this is your
saw where it
website
said
now.
book a call?
How do they schedule an appointment
Yeah,
on you?
go back to contact.
Okay, there it is.
Yep.
Oh, okay. You just got to scroll. You just got to
Mm-hmm.
scroll down a little bit further. There you go.
Yep.
All right, so there's Joanna's calendar right there. So you can skip the line and do direct checkout and book a session with Joanna directly on her website, which is topflightagent.com. As you can see, if you scroll down just a little bit further, you can reach her at 470-610-5710. You can email us support@topflightagent.com. There you have it. So,
Thank you.
Joanna, if I were standing on top of the world with the largest megaphone of all of mankind and shout out this message that I feel anybody and everybody needs to know about, what would that message be?
Yeah, I think you need to know all of your options, whether you like we covered. If you're working for an employer and you have family members, you should know your options and know what you actually have in your wallet.
Short, simple, to the point. So, a huge thank you for Joanna for breaking down the ins and the outs of ACA coverage so clearly. Guys, if you've been putting off looking into the marketplace, hopefully now you feel empowered to take that next step. If you want help reviewing your options or applying for coverage, reach out to Joanna or somebody like her, a certified ACA advisor. Just the bottom line is don't try to go at it alone if you're unsure. And as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with anybody that you know who's navigating the world of health insurance. So thanks for tuning in. Joanna, thank you so much for
Thanks for having
donating
me.
1 hour of your time
Mhm.
to educate those who are out there and help empower our communities and put these people in the best position humanly possible.